I'm gonna teach you how to fix muscular imbalances, and we're gonna start right now. So what are muscular imbalances and how do they occur? So there's a couple different things that might happen. There might be a genetic predisposition. So some individuals, we have Haley Reichert. She has a muscular imbalance with her glutes relative to her quads. And a lot of people can see when she lifts at max speed, she has a little bit of valgus knees. In her case, it's 100% genetic. Her brother's knees move the exact same way. Now, with other athletes, we might see it that one side is favored over the other. And that might be from they're favoring their dominant side. It might be they're favoring an injury or they're trying to protect that injury. So we can see muscular imbalances in multiple different angles. One of the easiest ways to see a muscular imbalance might be just doing a bilateral squat. Oftentimes, athletes that favor one ankle or one issue with the lower back over the other will get down in the bottom of the hole and they might rotate slightly as they come up, and they don't even feel that. But as a coach, you have to be aware. They might come up, they might start to grind, twist, and then they get back up to that top. That's a sign of a muscular imbalance. We can also see that if we're doing something as simple as a single leg squat. And remember, if you need a single leg squat stand, head over to GarageStrength.com to pick yours up today. One thing that might happen is, hopefully I can execute this well, I can get into this position on my left leg. Let's say I do 3 easy reps, right? That was easy. For me, my right side's a little tighter. My right ankle has a little bit less mobility. So I might go down and I can't get back up. I'm out of position because I rotate in and I have to get set to get out of that position. It might happen again here, a little bounce, and I might be falling, putting my foot down. That's an easy way to see a muscular imbalance. A lot of kids will say, it's not the weight, it's my balance. If they say that when they're doing a single leg squat, they're broadcasting to you as the coach, I'm struggling with a muscular imbalance, please fix it. Oftentimes chronic use sports like baseball, swimming, those sports that have a lot of volume, and it comes down to a few simple factors that impact those muscular imbalances. In high volume sports, there's a lot of training, and that can lead to some inflammatory factors and some issues of scar tissue developing, and that leads to your body protecting specific sides or specific joints over another joint. Oh my gosh, I'm so tight on my right side. So we can also alleviate some of these issues by doing some mobility work, doing something like pigeon pose. If we notice that one hip is tighter than another, or if we notice that an ankle is tighter than another, we can do an ankle distraction on that specific area. For me, I do shift a little bit towards my left side. My right side's a little bit tighter. So ideally, I would hit a couple back squats. This hurts so much, and then in between, hit some pigeon pose to try and open up that hip joint. It can also lead to general weakness caused by high volume sports and chronic use. My back. Another factor would be genetic predisposition to valgus knees, like we mentioned with Haley, and flat feet can also be a potential issue that leads to muscular imbalances if it's not handled properly. So when these issues are identified, how can we adjust them? So to adjust any problem areas, we can do simple stability exercises with proper warming up, like PVC pipe walks if I have ankle issues. I can also go heel to toe walks while I have another problem area holding an isometric action. So right now, I have a stability issue in my shoulders. By me holding this overhead, okay, and doing different styles of walking with my toes, I'm improving my proprioception in my feet while also trying to focus on opening up my upper back and being stable with a sense of dynamic trunk control, all while using the hydro weight, which of course is available at GarageStrength.com. So higher speed movements are also another way to improve your coordination when you're warming up. So we're trying to get rid of friction. Friction can prevent power output. John Giacalone taught me this directly, the man behind the mobility doc. So we can do simple concentric bodyweight squats here, okay? Drive up fast, and we can slowly get a little bit quicker, and then that can lead us into simple pogo hops here. These simple pogo hops will help us with absorbing that energy and reacting a little bit faster. And that ultimately, ideally, will lead into better power output inside of our workout. We also love to warm up with unilateral movements. So Cossack squats here to really focus on trying to keep that heel grounded, okay? So we can go side to side. If we have somebody who has really tight hips or tight ankles, we can also have some individuals that might have hip issues in their hip flexors. So we can do single leg squats here with our hands up on that problem area to really try to wake that up and make sure that they feel good as they get into that leg workout. Ooh, yeah, this feels nice. We can also warm up with a specific type of distraction drill. We can do this in our shoulder. We can do this in our ankle if we're trying to increase our ankle mobility. Another great way to try and iron out these muscular imbalances is isolation exercises. So if our right side has a severe problem from chronic overuse and it doesn't fire in the beginning of a training session, let's say like with baseball players, we can focus on a slow eccentric with a light load. And this is gonna isolate that shoulder and try and really wake it up before we get into that workout. And if you're sick of only getting partial access to the internet that you deserve, make sure you check out today's video sponsor, ExpressVPN.
Only available in Singapore? What the heck?
Are you sick of not having access to your favorite shows and sports because you don't live in the right country? ExpressVPN can help. ExpressVPN lets you change your online location. They have 94 countries you can choose to appear from, allowing you to access content from sites and services only available in those countries. They also mask your device's unique IP address, making it much more difficult for big tech companies and advertisers to match your activity back to you and collect your data. To be honest, we used ExpressVPN before they were even a sponsor of this video. Back when garage strength athletes CeCe Lyons and Alex Rose threw discus at the Commonwealth Games earlier this summer, watching the games were only available to countries that were competing. Thanks to ExpressVPN, we were able to change our IP address to Great Britain and cheer for both of them, and CeCe even won gold. If you want to give ExpressVPN a shot, we'll give you the first 3 months for free. Click the link down below. Now, we'll throw it back to Dane so you can fix those muscle imbalances.
Thanks, Jake. So that first example that I like to look at is how do athletes jump? This is the easiest way to see muscular imbalances. And one of those simple things is someone's doing a box jump, okay? So instead of doing a box jump like this, where they're here, they drop and they land perfectly, they might do it like this. They favor the leg that they jump off of if they're running and they go to do a layup, or if they're doing anything that involves jumping. Maybe they're long jumpers or high jumpers, so they have that muscular imbalance and they jump like this. Okay, that was a little bit of an extreme example, but they jump and they struggle to really jump with 2 legs, but we want them to improve sports performance in other areas. So we can fix this multiple different ways. So another really unique way that you can test for any muscular imbalances is take jumps, okay? Take single leg bounds. And what I like to do is, how far are they jumping or how well are they reacting from the left leg to the right leg, back to the left leg, back to the right leg? And then you can start to see one pulls ahead of the other, okay? So that might be because there's a lack of dynamic trunk control. They start to fall from side to side, or they start to land and tumble forward because they can't hold that posture upright. But those single leg bounds really provide a lot of simple information that we can then use to try and improve their workout. It's important to analyze sport movement so that we can see if individuals are favoring one side over the other when they're cutting, when they're running, when they're jumping. And the first key thing you have to do is use stability-based movements and then slowly add load to those stability-based movements to try and alleviate and get rid of those issues that they might have with coordination. Example 2 that I really like to use, and this can be done with dumbbell bench or with a flat bench, is when you're training baseball players or anybody who throws quite a bit. You're gonna see that baseball players love to do this. They'll turn their shoulder in and they'll start to press and they'll fall away from that strong arm, okay? So again, they're gonna come down, they'll be like, and this comes back to making sure that you are aware of their sport movement, okay? And that's exactly why I typically will say, if we're dealing with baseball players, we've got to make sure we're doing neutral presses with a bar or with a dumbbell, and they're very aware of what their upper back is doing. That's where the muscular imbalance comes into play. And the fastest way to alleviate a lot of those issues, especially with baseball players, is gonna be using those dumbbells, okay? Using pauses. If we use pauses and we force people to have slow eccentric into a pause, now their body has to have a muscular action for a longer period of time. That raises their awareness and they execute more effectively. And my favorite trick is to put a band on their wrists when they're pressing. And this forces their rhomboid and their upper back to be more active, which in turn is going to lead to better pressing mechanics. So like we have mentioned before, back squatting is a great assessment, okay? It's a simple movement. There's not a crazy technical requirement, and what we can do as coaches is just get somebody to back squat a bar or 70 kilos, depending upon their strength, and we can watch how they actually move, okay? So if we have an athlete who comes down and maybe they drive out of the bottom and they shift one way or the other, or when they're working through an eccentric pattern here, they might have a lot of knee pain right around 90 degrees. That's gonna broadcast to us again that, all right, now they have a hip issue, or they have a lower back issue, or they have a muscular imbalance that supports their knee or lacks the support around their knee, and this leads to bigger issues. So what I like to recommend is do a back squat and then do some type of mobility exercise that can alleviate that stress. Keep the load like 50%, 40%, 60%, somewhere in that range, and then you can go back and forth between the mobility exercise and whatever that prime mover movement is to try and fix that imbalance. So in my examples, you could see that I was favoring one side over the other. So let's pretend that I have a really dominant left leg, which in my case I do. Two ways that you can fix that is through training unilateral patterning. So we can do a single leg squat, and because my left leg is dominant, what I want to do is use my right leg first, okay? So if I would train my left leg first, that's my stronger leg, and it's less fatigued, then my left leg's gonna keep getting stronger and my right leg will stay weaker. But if I train my right leg first, okay, I'm gonna have a little bit more freshness, and that's gonna help improve the strength in my right leg. I can do the exact same thing with step-ups, or even with drop lunges. I could train that weak side first to try and strengthen that to catch up to my dominant side. So athletes and coaches may also notice a muscular imbalance when they're running or when they're jumping off of one leg. So in this case, stair jumps. I can jump at least 3 stairs, hopefully with my left leg here. Okay, that wasn't the best, but the big thing is seeing that recovery. So if I'm going here, boom, okay, hit, hit, hit. That's my left leg. Now, if I'm going with my right leg, my non-dominant leg, I'm gonna struggle to get a longer jump. So that just immediately tells us, this is the leg I jumped from. This is my weaker leg that also lacks some mobility. So now we have to take that information and apply it into training. So example 4 would be trying to identify if there's a lack of coordination with 2 prime movers. So this could come down to a bench press. Let's use the example that I can get the bench like 6 inches off my chest, 8 inches off my chest, 10 inches off my chest, but I get to that mid-range and my triceps fail to drive through and lock out. This is very, very evident in swimmers who are doing pull-ups. Swimmers who are doing pull-ups do a great job doing a dead hang pull-up, and they can get to about mid-range, but then their biceps are extremely weak relative to their pull-ups. So there is actually a sense of a muscular imbalance that needs to be alleviated. So what we can do is we can work through partial ranges of motion and then bring back that full range of motion after we train through those partial range of motion. So this could be a really easy trick to alleviate this, and it does take time to do this, but what you can do is have a partner here, and if I struggle with a lockout, I might go down, okay, come back up, push into him as hard as I can, come back down, push into him as hard as I can, come back down, push into him as hard as I can, then I'm gonna lock out, and I wanna do full range of motion now to train those triceps to improve the coordination between my triceps and my pecs. And that's something that you can also do on a pull-up bar with swimmers or with any other athletes that have that same muscular imbalance. There's a lot of confusing issues at play that go into muscular imbalances. Oftentimes we have to factor in genetics, we have to factor in overall strength of the individual, what their twitch type is, and then ultimately, if they've had any injuries in the past. Identify all these things through simplicity first, and if you still are troubleshooting and having problems, reach out to a professional, like the mobility doc. If you want to keep that brain balance rolling, make sure that you like and you subscribe. If you need a power elastic so that you can get really swole and fix some of your muscular imbalances, click on the link down below and pick up our power elastics at garagestrength.com. And if you want to get a little bit deeper into the weeds, make sure that you follow our podcast channel, the Masters of Sport podcast. Because remember, if you want to be a freak, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.